This video is intended to describe a lightblade wand named Abundance, which would be the 40th rendition of 2025. Joining me today will be my whimsical stick figure chakra map that's been well utilized to be a nice visual guide for various chakra stimulation points based on the exotic crystalline composition. Without further ado, I shall get into the primary blade band scaffolding, which vaguely resembles a figure 8, like so, going down here to be a perfect perpetual recirculation of energy. Starting off with the transmutation ratio to work as a perfect preface for a foundational scaffolding, seen right here, consisting of hematite and smoky quartz, igniting like so, underneath this lateral band right here, underneath this lovely green leather. This lateral band as well as the main engine band, which is once again hematite smoky quartz. Lateral band, as well as the hand bands now concealed right here, grounded back into this transmutation lateral band, which will be the foundational scaffolding as part of the figure 8 of the lightblade recirculation that plays quite the critical role for very effective dynamic functionality, particularly as a contingency for such a diverse, high-yield, potent frequency platform of a very, very exotic crystalline nature, which of course will get their due time in this as the video progresses. So once again, the aspect of the hematite being an iron-based crystal is a fantastic grounder of all excess energy through the entire energy system, firmly pulling all stray radial energies through the root chakra into the earth stars, into the earth meridian matrix for reprocessing. In tandem with smoky quartz providing the same auric field stimulation function, being a fantastic grounder of all excess energy, like composting if you would, to promote all the excess energy grounding through the root chakra, into the earth stars, and into the earth meridian matrix for reprocessing. So the two in tandem have been deemed the transmutation ratio based on this critical feature of working as a successful etheric dialysis to perpetually generate the energy's momentum to give it a safe bypass into the earth for consistent reprocessing, which has many benefits, obviously, which will be discussed now for theoretical purposes. Of course, of the aspect of having a strong, firm grounding, like I mentioned earlier, is a fantastic contingency to take all the excessive energy and give it a safe ground to arc it into the earth for reprocessing, as well as B, to ensure the frequency contact patch of this entire exotic high-frequency crystalline composition has a very strong manifestation capacity to ground to the earth to make it real. Just like the laws of lightning, how it requires a positive and a negative for lightning to strike, same concept can be applied towards crystalline theurgy sorcery, I guess you could say. So that's exactly why, like I mentioned, this will be the first critical feature to discuss as a very viable, important functional part of the construct's very diverse exotic crystalline output. As having the transmutation scaffolding encourage the grounding and the recirculation, of course also, as the energy runs through the entirety of the construct, which is quite vast to get into, it gives a very safe, grounded pathway for the entire energy, which also works like a surge protector to ensure the high-frequency pitch always has a safe arc bypass ground into the earth for comfortability, efficiency, and tangibility in that capacity. So the primary blade band, what indeed does make it a proper entry into the abundance field, starting off up here with 8 clear quartz to be the numerological honoring of abundance. Also, the clear quartz works as a neutral accelerant of energy for this entire sequence before it goes into the primary blade band seen right here. Starting off with rutilated quartz to work as a massive accelerant of the entire blade band ignition sequence. Paradoxically almost, is accelerating the most stable of the green ray water elemental heart chakra stimulants, that of moss green agate, that plays quite the pivotal role for stability and efficiency for such a very powerful, potent green ray heart chakra activation exaggeration, which I'll describe right now. The aspect of the moss green agate being the most stable heart chakra stimulant, of course, works as a fantastic way to ensure the intensive high-frequency pitch of the other components in the blade band yet to be mentioned has a very stable terrestrial heart chakra stimulation to ensure the frequency pitch is very stable in its output. I said stability 5 times right there because that's quite critical. So the aspect of the moss green agate right here goes into golden healer quartz. So you can think of the moss green agate being a fantastic terrestrial heart chakra stimulant, while the golden healer quartz could be the impeccable celestial stimulant of gold white light high heart source attunement. So the tuning junction, of course, could be quite effective for having a celestial terrestrial transference and a stability pattern, which should be considered also the new earth portal transference of source energy made physical in that capacity for the engineering purpose so far. Then the aspect that goes into the abundance ratio continues on into golden healer quartz, into peridot. Peridot is a fantastic 3rd and 4th chakra stimulant, that of the equivalency of chlorophyll or growth, how of course all this happens, to be a very powerful, expansive, positive growth frequency, which is very, very conducive towards the abundance intentional designation. And so in the aspect of peridot, being a classic stone of antiquity and praise for being a stone of positivity and abundance is very well applied here. Then going into the rutilated quartz once again to further intensify the sequence, going into the classic and famous emerald. Emerald, of course, is a very precious stone in antiquity, and modern humans have pretty much all heard of emerald because it is a true precious stone, not just rockhounds, for example. And of course, that has steeped lore of being a very regal, powerful green ray crystal of abundance. So that quintessential, impeccable beryl family heart chakra stimulant, oftentimes an 8.5 out of 10 the hardness scale, means it has a very dense atomical structure, which means green ray vibration is quite potent and very strong on the atomical structure. So that's exactly why that is quite the famous stone of abundance. So naturally, it goes back into golden healer quartz to be the source, high heart gold white light source octave, which is very evidently advantageous for any metaphysical vibration engineering endeavor. I laugh at myself sometimes, of course, because it's just pretty amazing to put rationally. Then going into, once again, the importance of the moss green agate with the exaggeration of the source energy, the peridot, the rutilated quartz, the massive expansion of the heart chakra's capacity. Then going to be more relevant is the further stabilization of that massive heart chakra abundance exaggeration is what's so key for the successful sustainability of the abundance frequency emanation, to maintain that wavelength impeccably, to essentially coherently align with the abundance wavelength in a stable fashion is exactly why that's here. Hence I mentioned it twice, because of its criticality for a functional, sustainable platform. And so, once again, it goes on like so until it completes its sequence, which goes into the clear quartz down here, which grounds into the transmutation scaffolding to take the excessive energetic momentum inertia, if you would, and firmly anchor it, ground it to increase the context of making the magic real. Quite simply. So, of course, now that's just the basic figure 8 scaffolding discussed so far. And now we're going to go into the engine, which will be quite the vast topic. And before I continue the individual nodes down here, I'll discuss this last lateral band seen right here, which plays quite the pivotal role as well as part of the blade band scaffolding. Going into rutilated quartz to intensify the emanation of fluorite, seen right here. Fluorite is a fantastic crystal that I essentially denote to being the crystal of order, to bring chaos into order based on coherent structuring of energy, of all energy fields. It makes it very, very effective, particularly in a more powerful, potent, high dynamic construct, to increase coherent, stabilized energy fields and condense and clean them as much as possible, which is the force of order of fluorite, plays a very critical role in effective wielding of magic, as far as I'm concerned, in that capacity. Alrighty, so before I even hop into this entire long dissertation, I'll go ahead and discuss the function of the hood as well as the iconography seen right here. I will put this over here just for a slight illustration. Alright, I'll fold it like so. just to somewhat give an idea while I have this going. So the white leather hood definitely has a functional purpose far more than aesthetic. So the aspect of installing this properly will serve these functions as a color therapy resonance of the white ray, which of course is the 7 rays unified, which is very advantageous for a full spectrum emanation near the intensive, complicated engine of the construct, if you would, or the heart of the little beast here. And also works to, of course, protect all the crystals as they will be wielded in many, many ventures of all the subtle terminations all right here on a closed loop circuit. As well as a very important part of the function too is to successfully utilize the leather as an insulation agent to mitigate any leakages of energy so that basically the blade runs cleaner and hotter, if you would, without stray leakages of such a very complex stack of crystals, so that the energy is being mitigated and directed further through the apex of this blade band right here, like I said, to mitigate excessive energy dispersing so that it, of course, runs more efficiently, quite simply, in that capacity. As well as affixed to the hood, once this is properly notarized and installed, will be the lovely aspect of the Ankh with an homage to what looks like the ancient blue lotus, which is very nice. And so the Ankh, of course, is very self-explanatory and being a very powerful symbol of immortality utilized by Egyptian mystery schools and even Atlantean. I'll go ahead and continue my dissertation. No more digressions. as much as possible. It's such a vast topic to discuss. Then right here, a very special druidic symbol of the Triquetra. Fantastic Trinity alignment right there. And this rendition, very fortuitously, I found it inside a crescent moon, which hits many octaves of appropriate nature for the recipient. Very fun, serendipitous find. I wasn't expecting when I acquired this. So there we have it. The recipient obviously knows the importance of these, so I'll go ahead and keep on cruising. So this vast section will be quite the undertaking to discuss in full comprehension. So starting off right here, actually I might as well start on this side to discuss the primary engine of the construct, which is a nice Lemurian crystal scene right here, which works as a neutral programmable heart of the construct, if you would, as well as a primary source of neutral resonance for the consciousness of the wielder to resonate with, to, of course, charge or prime with spirit intention through the construct, which makes it a very nice compatible resonance with the recipient's auric field template. And above that would be selenite scene right here, which I will save for later because I eventually will do a massive expose on the concept of the structure up here as seen by the primary blade band. So, but it's there. White selenite has a very critical role, which I will omit for now to condense for later. Alrighty, so I guess I'll hop right into this guy right here, which actually is a piece of Purcelli bluestone. The same stone utilized to craft and erect Stonehenge. So the aspects of the piezoelectric multidimensional bridging capacities of Stonehenge and Purcelli bluestone for that matter are quite legendary as one of the wonders of the world of antiquity. And so here's a little fun fact that is definitely worth the discussion, is that this particular stone was hewn from a quarry 400 miles away from the site of Stonehenge. And so obviously, according to modern archaeological history, that would be rather Herculean, impossible feat. And so what makes this very cool here is, irregardless of the legend and lore and the architecture of the site, whoever deftly crafted that site thought the juice was worth the squeeze to make it so, to get these massive, ginormous pillars moved 400 miles away from where it was hewn, based on this crystal composition. Very fun fact. That's an irrefutable fact that is pretty cool, because, like I mentioned, whoever erected it, legends aside, druids and all kinds of things, could be a whole long rabbit hole, which I'll omit for this video. But the point is that this particular frequency of Stonehenge is embedded in the operating system of this construct. So on that note, I'll go ahead and be very thorough and clear on this concept right here of every single frequency in the loose right here has been wire wrapped to the primary wire in some fashion, which can serve like the main vein to carry the continuity of the entire energy as a closed loop circuit. So all these various frequencies are all wired to the primary wire, which consists of copper, brass, and silver spooled together via drill to serve as the main vein, like I said, to be the main current of everything mentioned here to generate significant vibrational compound interest as a functional unit. As a crystalline entity of great scope and scale, so everything I'll be discussing could be considered like an organ for this crystalline entity from this point forward. So that's why, of course, each of these individual crystals mentioned so far all play an intrinsic role for the overall tapestry that makes up the 40th rendition of abundance. And right here, next to the Persei bluestone, is a lovely specimen of aquamarine, a very, very fine quality specimen. So aquamarine is actually a blue-ray cousin to emerald of the beryl family, which has a fantastic, oftentimes 8.5 out of 10 the hardness scale, which makes it a very dense atomical cardinal water crystal right here that has a very fantastic 4th and 5th chakra stimulant and is quite the legendary crystal of antiquity as well. And like I mentioned, a fantastic cousin to the beryl family of emeralds, so that's why that guy's there. Just as a little nod to that guy before I continue on. So, speaking of druidic traditions, this right here would be jet. Jet is a black-gray carbon-based crystal of antiquity utilized by druids to neutralize negativity, particularly in the feats of dismantling black magic. Very fun fact. So that can be considered a very old-school, carbon-based black-gray rendition of extreme purification capacity, in conjunction with the new school version that's quite in vogue right now, named shungite. So shungite is another black-gray, carbon-based filtration frequency, and where shungite gets quite the positive rap these days is quite famous for mitigating 5G harmful wavelength energies. So the aspect of having the old school and new school renditions of two black-gray crystals of great purification and carbon-based capacity work very well together to be an all-encompassing rapid purification agent, which is very helpful for such a dynamically high-yield provocative construct in the most playful way possible. I could say that. So that's a very fun fact why they're there. Then right here would be Stitchtite, which is a purple ray version of serpentine, which is a very fantastic kundalini stimulant as well, and a fantastic emotional soother and healer. And also, since it's a purple ray crystal, has a very nice stimulation to the violet ray crown chakra as well, which encourages full light body activation as well. And like I mentioned, a kundalini stimulant to encourage the serpentine energy of the latent capacity of the aligned light body, which could be induced by kundalini activations in proper doses, of course. And speaking of serpentine, this specimen of serpentine actually comes from here, from Mount Shasta, from my backyard, right literally where this riverbed is off in the distance, which is a fantastic Mount Shasta frequency, obviously, but also serpentine of the green variety with a little nephrite jade makes for a fantastic kundalini activator as well, and a cellular respirator for that matter, as a very nice master healer in tandem with many other supporting elements. This right here is oceanic calcite. So white calcite I consider to be tremendously underrated in crystal healing based on the full white spectrum fire elemental clearing of stagnant patterns for the entire energy field. But what makes this truly noteworthy and remarkable for this dissertation is the aspect of this white calcite particularly has been tumbled by the ocean for hundreds, perhaps thousands of years, eons, literally God knows. But why that's important is that the indelible mark of the oceanic clearing imprintation has literally shaped the stone into what it is, to be, of course, embedded into an operating system to have oceanic purification capacity through the entirety of this closed loop circuit. So right here, next to that, to be very supportive of that concept, is scolecite. So scolecite actually has a heavy concentration in this blade to be the quintessential white ray of divinity I utilize quite frequently for very nice wind elemental 6th, 7th, 8th non-physical chakra stimulation back to one's Godhead, but what makes it truly remarkable in a very soothing, calming, divine mind witness self perspective, which is very advantageous for the spiritual adepts witness self perspective. So the aspect of scolecite being a fantastic white stone of divinity has been well represented on both sides of the engine, if you would, as well as a prominent placement on the blade face itself for a very distinct purpose of being that just what I implied, a white ray of divinity, part of the structure of bringing heaven to earth. Then down here would be a very, very special pseudo-hematoid crystal named Prophecy Stone. Prophecy Stone comes from a very remote section of Libyan desert where the gentleman who discovered it had a massive, unexpected prophetic vision, hence it got its name. And a very fun fact that's very, very neat about this particular pseudo-hematoid space origin rock crystal guy right here is that apparently, according to science, it has metals on our periodic table that are not from Earth. So, the aspect of what I was trying to say there in a more coherent fashion is that this has space metal imbued in its structure, which is a very cool fact. And so this celestial impact crystal right here has a very, very effectively powerful 6th, 7th, 8th non-physical chakra, higher chakra induction, which of course could be very conducive to being in the state of being in prophetic clairvoyant mode. Very neat. But what's cool about this crystal also is with the high iron content, it also works as a massive grounder of this high frequency energy through the entire body into the earth stars, into the earth for reprocessing as its own individual full sequential engagement crystal, which of course gives a lot of pep to the entirety of the construct, which will be quite the vast tour still ahead of us. So very, very, very cool, amazing crystal. I love it quite a bit. And also they theorized that science is not quite on board with this yet, but this auspicious meteorite appearing guy right here also is found exactly in the same locality as Libyan gold tektite. So I can leave the recipient to the conclusions of this perhaps being the mother impact of the meteorite, if you would, that vaporized glass to make Libyan desert sand glass, which will be a long way away at this trajectory to discuss, but keep that in mind, I guess. Okay, so over here, seen right here is ruby. Ruby is a red ray corundum-based crystal, which is quite famous and almost deified in human history at this point as well, for being the quintessential, very dense atomical root chakra red ray zest for life activator as well, and has quite the steeped legend and lore attached to it as being a very powerful precious stone of antiquity. And the aspect of the intensive red ray can sometimes be a 8.5 or 9 out of 10 in the hardness scale, which means it has a very vivid, dynamic, intensive root chakra activation, which of course is very, very advantageous for such a dynamic, high-yield construct, all these little organs working together. And so the ruby right here should not need much more introduction to be discussed in full discussed in full at this point. So the next section I'll be discussing will be quite the critical subroutine of the entire construct for intended purpose starting right now, which consists of the jasper, the agates, right here. So the aspect of this whole subroutine of these guys plays a critical role based on the most stable vibrations of the elemental color range spectrums seen all in this subcircuit. So red jasper is the quintessential root chakra stabilizer of the earth frequency in the mineral kingdom, in tandem with fire agate to be the quintessential stabilization of fire to stimulate the root, sacrum, and solar plexus. Then over here will be the stabilizations of water, which is moss green agate, another big dose, much like the blade band before mentioned, based on its critical green ray water elemental stabilization of the heart chakra, in tandem with blue lace agate seen right here, which is another water elemental stabilization of the 5th chakra, which is very advantageous for practitioners in a teaching position, such as the recipient here. Then under here, underneath the ruby buried, is actually grape agate, which is a purple ray agate, which is a fantastic stabilization of the 6th and 7th chakras, thereby wind. So when you take the most stable elements of earth, fire, water, and wind, based on the terrestrial four elemental Lakota medicine wheel, it brings a very nice background stabilization to ensure the even elemental stabilization of the entire elemental spectrum, as just another little efficiency subroutine to ensure stability for the wielding of this very high dynamic construct of theurgy and crystalline magic and vibrational outputs. To put it quite simply. So next I'll be discussing these two guys as part of a holy trinity of crystals I utilize quite religiously. So this right here would be star argonite. Star argonite is a very fantastic calcium-based full light body activator that works very diligently to dismantle patterns of dis-ease and stagnancies through the entire auric field from top to bottom. So the reason I mentioned the other two is that vibrationally speaking, they could be considered cousins of a holy trinity of master healer frequencies employed in one circuit that have been quite advantageous and very effective for utilitarian practical vibrational healing means. So the star argonite plays a critical role, of course, in being a calcium-based clearing of the entire energy field. Then in tandem with Tibetan black quartz seen right here that comes from Tibet, which has very fantastic black inclusions in the structure that comes from Tibet, like I mentioned, which is one of the most prolifically concentrated spiritual locations on the earth, as far as we know for recorded history, and has that very powerful Om frequency resonance that works as a very powerful full light body activator as well, and works very diligently to dismantle any patterns of dis-ease from top to bottom once again. Hence I mentioned that they work together as a very effective full light body trinity in their own right. And I guess I'll mention the trinity, the third of the trinity right now, since I'll stay on topic, of this being seraphinite, which is a green ray crystal named after the seraphim archangels to be a comprehensive imbuement of the entire auric fields with seraphic high frequency entities of light creation that works very diligently once again as a full light body activator as well, that works very, very diligently to dismantle patterns of dis-ease once again. Hence now the holy trinity of these utilized master healers has been well discussed. I will continue back to the main heart of the construct's dissertation. So to give a little more zeal and zest to this entire construct would be that of fulgurite, which is actually the impact of lightning striking sand, which is literally lightning caught in a crystal. So this particular crystal was utilized by shamans of antiquity to resonate with, to intensify their energy by literally harnessing the etheric energy of lightning to intensify their magic, their prayers, or their medicine, which is very, very cool. So the aspect of the fulgurite also makes for a very lightning fast full light body activator as well as a massive intensification of manifestation, hence its shamanic utilization of antiquity. So having a little dose of lightning through a closed loop circuit with many contingencies though, mind you, goes a very long way for very high vibrational manifestations. And speaking of the same vein, I'll be discussing the black tektite seen right here. Black tektite is a product of nickel meteorite impacting the sand, carrying that cosmic impact celestial jolt from heaven to earth. And luckily, a black ray format to be a very high vibratory threshold induction crystal. But since it's a black ray crystal, it has a very nice foundational raising of vibrations from the earth stars up to essentially fortify the higher threshold of the vibratory field potential of the auric field in a very nice ground up fashion, which I can't explain as a very, very advantageous recipe for any given spirit tool. Virtually all spirit tools, or light blades if for that matter, or various technologies, have a form of black tektite for this very utilitarian purpose, no matter what platform it is basically, as a very essential, tangible raising of vibrations to the atomical structure of the field. Then right here is a red rock from Sedona, Arizona. So Sedona, Arizona is another very special locality on the earth that's quite famous for spiritual magical concepts. And the aspect of red The red rock is very high in iron throughout the entire Sedona area, which encourages a very high vortice energy to ground into reality. Hence, it's another famous place of magic that was called the hospital by the natives of the area that had a truce for Sedona that no one actually lived there, and they called it the hospital. They considered it holy land, and apparently that was not breached for 800 years, according to legend. Very fun fact. Pardon my digressions, but the point is, little Sedona magic is now installed in the operating system. Then moving on to a very, very special specimen, almost a shame to conceal under the hood, is a smoky amethyst phantom, which is very, very neat. So the aspect of having amethyst being a lovely violet ray, traditional wind elemental purification agent, with the same structure as a smoky quartz, which already makes a very nice heaven to earth frequency in its own right, from top to bottom, makes for a very dynamic full light body activator and purifier as well, to add a bit of a little more over-the-top vibrational compound interest to this very exotic composition. But what can I say? It's the 40th rendition of 2025. It has to be somewhat of an anniversary edition, for it's a very special four-digit construct right there to get into the aspects of the 40s. Pardon my little digressions as I continue forward. So right here, this would be lepidolite, which is a purple ray lithium potassium based crystal, which is one of the most soothing crystalline vibrations in the entire mineral kingdom. Based on the lithium to be the ultimate rapid soother of Zen blissful frequency, then the potassium also works as a very nice nervous system grounder. So this frequency is very, very effective for bringing a great soothing oasis of calm vibration, much like scoicite, for that purpose. So obviously with such a diverse, exotic crystalline composition, a little bit of soothing in the background goes a very long way, just like all the other organs the entity mentioned so far. Let's see. Okay, last but certainly not least, which I was saving for right now, would be the function of the smoky celestial quartz seen right here, which can work like the secondary main heart of the construct down here. So the celestial quartz plays quite the pivotal role in any given high-yield effective light tech device for exactly this purpose. So the smoky quartz, like mentioned, the blade band scaffolding is a fantastic grounder of negativity into positivity by reprocessing into the earth as a transmutation agent. And the aspect of the celestial structure makes for a very intrinsic important purpose of being the auto-regulation based on the crystalline structure, works with the auric field of any entity or being in contact with the frequency to work as a governor or an auto-regulator or a dimmer switch to ensure the comfortable frequency pitch of the entirety of the crystalline construct is in a very optimum receptive transference. And what I'm trying to say there, which is quite the Herculean endeavor to say coherently and clearly and appeal to the rational mind, is that essentially works like a surge protector to ensure the frequency pitch of the entire device is in a very comfortable ingestible optimum to the auric field whoever comes in contact. So of course with the primary wielder, that's definitely in mind, but then of course if the primary wielder has someone hold it, for example, it will auto-calibrate the entire frequency pitch to their template and meet them where they're at based on their higher self oversoul divine directive, if that makes sense. But the long story short, also, like I said, it's like a surge protector to ensure the frequency pitch of the entire construct is at a very comfortable, efficient optimum based on essentially divine intervention in real time. I think that will be sufficient to discuss the entirety of the engine, so I'm going to go ahead and continue on now. So like mentioned, the transmutation handbands that have now been concealed by the lovely green leather, which has been a traditional installation for all abundance constructs, particularly the wands at this point, is a very nice homage to a insulation of the energy going up here to, of course, condense it and mitigate stray leakage of energy for efficient recirculation, as well as a green ray heart chakra homage. And so once again, the transmutation handband scaffolding goes all the way up to here, to a lateral band, then it goes up to the entirety of the rest of the construct. All right, so I'll go ahead and I'll discuss the thumb engagement right now, after I clear my throat for after 34.5 minutes so far of just the engine dissertation, but now this will go much quicker because that's where the meticulous explanations oftentimes reside. Okay. So this, like implied, is designed to engage the thumb like so. That's why I have my nifty book to support it so I can discuss it with both hands free. So the foundation of the entirety of thumb engagement, the golden ray crystal, would be that of Libyan gold tektite, which is a very special crystal of antiquity utilized by the Magi's of Pharaoh, or Magi god kings, I should say, of the pharaohs of Egypt, which was carved into a scarabæus and set into the breastplate of a few distinguished Magi god king of the era. And the Libyan gold tektite comes from a very remote section of Libyan desert. And so the aspect of Libyan gold has a very powerful fire elemental composition with storm overtones. And what that means is that the high yield of the solar plexus and the sacrum are put in a very, very high threshold, yet the golden ray of illumination is so vibrant that it illuminates the entire light body as a whole, which makes it a quintessential dharmic accelerant of manifesting one's dharmic pattern into full 3D manifestation. Very fun fact, and truly an amazing, vibrant, joyful stone that is very, very, very empowering and promotes great amounts of celestial enthusiasm, if I had to say so. And has been an absolute quintessential of many high potent frequency devices for many good reasons. And also, it serves like a gold ray cousin to the legendary, infamous Moldavite. So Moldavite should not need much introduction, for it has become quite in vogue as a dramatic crystal of magic. But Moldavite is a storm elemental, heart chakra, high heart activator that aligns almost with hurricane force to one's dharmic blueprint. Hence, Moldavite has gotten a bad rap on modern social media platforms for being a crystal that ruins people's lives, for it is quite taxing on the false self matrix to endure the massive alchemical acceleration that it innately provides by its own nature. So the aspect of Moldavite, of course, I'm laughing because I have great reference, and there's a great amount of legend and lore for this crystal and how authentically powerful it is. So the aspect of Moldavite being the quintessential dharmic accelerant for the thumb engagement plays a critical role to make massive source alignment attunements to the Oversoul's divine template made manifest. Hence, in the raw by itself, it can be rather volatile on how much it can change one's internal world to manifest external shifts in very, very swift fashion based on their highest dharma manifest. So why I mention that too is that with this entire construct, there's many different grounding features as well as stabilization contingencies to get the most out of it by design to mitigate the timeline whiplash of rapid, spiritual, expedited alchemical acceleration. I thought I'd be very thorough in that discussion, but yes, it indeed is a stone of synchronicity, magic, and one's highest appointed path made manifest on the third dimensional plane. So very much a powerful crystal not to be trifled with and to be wielded with great respect and reverence, for it is very serious concentrated magic through a closed loop reactive circuit, of course, too. And next to that would be lovely tanzanite. Tanzanite is a fantastic blue-ray wind elemental crystal of the impeccable 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th chakra activation, which can be also considered an impeccable heart-mind coherence engager. So that aspect also plays a critical role to keep one's heart-mind coherence engaged while the dharmic acceleration of the primary thumb is completing its sequence in tandem with the blade band around the Libyan gold tektite, consisting of clear quartz and lapis lazuli. So the clear quartz works as a neutral acceleration of this entire closed circuit into the lapis lazuli, which is a blue-ray wind elemental crystal of great notoriety and antiquity, quite literally a favorite of millions for thousands of years for a good reason, and of course has great connotations to Isis and utilization of the Magi of antiquity of Egypt. So the aspect of lapis being wind elemental, 5th and 6th chakra stimulant, makes for a very powerful sovereign aligner of one's psychic gifts and who they are into creation with great wisdom and insight, which makes for a very appropriate blue-ray truth containment for this dharmic acceleration to, of course, be a great agent of vibrational revelation of one's highest dharmic path made manifest. by design. So that would be the thumb engagement. Now I'll be moving on to the blade face. And now we are making some good progress here. So like mentioned previously, this would be the Seraphinite, one of the premier master healers I utilize quite religiously as part of the Holy Trinity of full light body activators. Then right here will be Sunstone, which is what I consider to be the yang to the yin of the abundance ratio. So the aspect of the green ray, rapid intake of green ray energy of heart chakra activation could be considered the primary blade band. And so in all abundance constructs, the installation of Sunstone has been quite critical to be the yang, to be the good feeling sacrum and solar plexus stimulation of good vibrations and more of an output positive masculine sort of fashion that is very encouraging towards the reception of abundance. So you can think of the enthusiasm, the creativity, the adventurousness, and feeling positive being a very, very, very critical function for how you feel. It goes out to the quantum void, and what you receive is all part of that circular sequence. So that's exactly why this very enthusiastic sunny, fun energy has been quite critical in the Abundance Crusade up to this point. Then right here would be a rose quartz flat embossed with the Flower of Life. The Flower of Life is a sacred geometric symbol that should not need much introduction as a master blueprint that's found in virtually all of creation. So I'll go ahead and just continue on there. And the aspect of the rose quartz seen right here makes for a fantastic pink ray, high heart, divine love resonator. So the fantastic part of having the Flower of Life geometric symbol of great reverence on rose quartz makes for a very nice divine source blueprint attunement. Another layer of it, if you would. And next to both of these guys will be two blue ray wonders of the mineral kingdom, starting off with turquoise on both sides. So obviously they have been built as symmetrically as possible on both sides of the blade face for impeccable design, for like just a very even continuity. The turquoise, back on target, is a fantastic fifth chakra stimulant that combines the aspects of earth, fire, water, and wind. Hence, it's a true ancient grandfather ally praised by the First Nation tribes of North America. Actually, if I discuss the worldwide lore, that'd probably take 10 more minutes, so I'll stop there. But the whole point is that to consolidate that concept is that this particular Blu-ray crystal has been well praised through the annals of recorded history as a very beautiful, precious stone of magic for very good reasons. And to stay back on target, which is not as easy as it looks with these long dissertations, the aspect of the turquoise plays a critical role for full pranic stimulation of the four elements, focused at the fifth chakra to be essentially a stone of wholeness, to be in who they are in truth, and further support that teaching position based on the vast soul archive of the library of their magical endeavors of many linear incarnations. I guess I'll stop right there and just continue on the crystalline composition. But that's the aspect why the turquoise is there for a very critical purpose. In course, conjunction with the lovely Larimar. Larimar is an amazing Blu-ray crystal from more modern timeline, discovered in 1982, I believe, as a very fantastic water and fire, paradoxically, embodiment of the blue ray, which is a fantastic fifth and sixth chakra stimulant that brings an extreme oasis of calm, soothing sensation that is also very much associated with Atlantean, Lemurian, Old World concepts based on Edgar C. Casey discussing how a stone of Atlantis will be discovered around the turn of the tide of the age of Aquarius. And many theorize that indeed this crystal is what Edgar C. Casey prophesied as a stone of Atlantis, or Lemuria, or Old World, if you would. Don't leave out Mu, but anyway, that's the concept right there. I have to, of course, mitigate my digressions to stay on target. And like mentioned before, scoicite on both sides plays a very critical role in the operating system to have a very powerful white ray of divinity alignment frequency right here. And to be another contingency to keep the lower three chakras in alignment would be the Tiger's Eye Moon employment on both sides. Tiger's Eye is a very fantastic lower 3 chakra stimulant, yet it also works as an aligner that works impeccably to align the solar plexus, the sacrum, and the root chakra, which is, of course, very conducive towards enlightened action into practicality. So Tiger's Eye is absolutely fantastic for that purpose. Then another dharmic accelerant of purple ray of chaurite seen on both sides. Chaurite is a fantastic purple ray stone. If I dare to say so, probably my favorite violet ray stone for this very utilitarian feature. So chaurite is a fantastic 6th, 7th, 8th non-physical chakra, typical wind elemental spectrum, yet the black inclusions of dendric as well as the white calcite makes for a very dynamic, rapid grounder of this energy into the earth stars. So by itself, it can be a self-contained full light body activator, which makes it quite fantastic. And the aspect of the calcite also further clears stagnant energies through the entire energy body as well to really firmly anchor one's appointed path into the third dimensional plane. So that's why I consider it a very lovely violet ray dharmic accelerant as a very powerful full light body activator to keep one in alignment with their golden thread of their highest path as well. So as I love that stone quite desperately, anyhow. So last but not least on the blade face, this is a pretty special crystal named naturalite. So naturalite is actually a very potent variant, cousin if you would, of scolecite. So naturalite, I was very fortuitous to find a specimen so large for this construct, the birth of this guy, and I found it very auspicious because naturalite is more like the rocket ship version of this guy right here, of scolecite. Scolecite's a very gentle, calming, blissful frequency, while naturalite is one of the top 3 third eye activators, nearly a third eye buster, if you would, of high yield divine storm energy that works very intensely as a 6th, 7th, 8th non-physical chakra stimulant that really dramatically yields high vibratory conducting. So the aspect of this being at the apex of this entire construct before it recirculates was very auspicious, like I mentioned, and is a very vividly, intensely powerful crystal of white divine light. That was a very massive dharmic accelerant as well, and a very potent high vibratory white ray crystal, clear ray crystal if you would, of divine light, which is very advantageous for this very ambitious 40th rendition. So, that'd be most of the crystals discussed so far. Now, I will be discussing the functions of the selenite and the kyanite, circling back to here to highlight this. So, the aspect down here of the selenite and the black kyanite seen right here are included in this part of the dissertation. So why, of course, these are installed down here with such a vast network for the main heart of the construct or engine, the integral purpose of having the selenite and the black kyanite here will make more sense as I'm discussing up here. So, of course, the selenite hewn to the oak core. So before I discuss that, I guess I want to go ahead and give a shout out to my buddy out there in my backyard. All the way off in the distance is an oak tree, that's a good friend of mine, who provided this by dropping on the ground actually during a windstorm on a couple Mondays ago, very specifically. And so oak makes for a very fantastic, dense, atomical, carbon-based wood ray structure that is very advantageous for a very high yield construct, because oak by itself, of course, is very much in deified lore for druids, as well as known as a wood and tree of gods, kings, heroes, you name it. Its legend is quite steeped, and particularly in druidic praise. And pragmatically speaking, the dense, strong atomical structure of oak makes for a very strengthening wood range carbon-based capacity for this entire device to be the scaffolding core of the entire closed loop emanation, which I will go ahead and continue on now. But there we go. The oak seen right here and here comes once again from my good friend off in the back of the woods over here. Anyway, back to the selenite. So the selenite has been hewn to exact shape of the oak core for this distinct purpose. So selenite by itself is a fantastic 6th, 7th, 8th non-physical chakra stimulant all the way back to one's godhead, which makes for a very powerful conscious self, higher self contact patch that effectively clears debris between one's conscious self and one's high spiritual guidance, which is very advantageous for the spiritual adept, obviously. And the aspect also of the white ray selenite making a high frequency induction also works as a massive purification through high frequency alignment to burn off stagnant energies from top to bottom, which is already tremendously advantageous. But where it truly shines in any given spirit tool is this concept right here. Of my dissertation of 50 minutes right now, of all these individual crystals in a closed loop circuit, this is where it plays a critical role. So as the entirety of the continuity recirculates through the entire construct, it runs through the selenite. And the selenite has the capacity to take this entire crystalline group and purify that whole collective emanation. It also takes that as well as amplifies the entire collective, and perhaps most importantly, brings harmonization and equilibrium to the entire collective. So as a summary, all of these crystals are running through the selenite to be purified, amplified, and harmonized in unity, which is always a triumphant trifecta to discuss on a given spirit tool. So hence, that's why it's been mentioned down here, was installed to further bring purification, harmonization, and equilibrium to the entirety of this intensive engine section for maximum efficiency as always. And also, that's why the black kyanite bolt has been installed exclusively down here to serve as a surge protector. So the aspect of kyanites are the most rapid transfers of energy in the mineral kingdom. Hence, I'll be utilizing whimsically fast penmanship for the dissertation right here. Black kyanite is the most rapid grounder in the mineral kingdom to rapidly transfer energy of the entire closed loop circuit into the earth as absolutely quick as possible. So that also serves as another layer of etheric Teflon to ensure the high frequency contact back to the earth is happening very rapidly to, of course, reroute and rebuffer, and the earth is absolutely quick as possible. Black kyanite is absolutely integral no matter what construct it is for that distinct tangibility of magic ensuring of tangible magic, I should say. I get very creative and sometimes I make up words. But particularly when I'm very spirited. And so right here will be orange kyanite to be the rapid sacrum transference to the highest yield. Hence, I'm moving my pen very quickly to, of course, encourage the imagination of manifestation into tangibility at a very high ratio. Then going to green kyanite, the most rapid transfer of heart chakra energy in the mineral kingdom. Then into blue kyanite, the most rapid transfer of energy through the third eye or the right and left hemispheres of the prefrontal lobes for whole brain thinking to mitigate the patterns of cross interference that would block the true third eye capacity. So the four together are also very integral for making transfers of energy, as well as, like I mentioned, a very effective further layer of etheric Teflon to mitigate and discourage stagnant energies from maintaining the field that are not of one's divine alignment factory blueprint, quite simply. Hence, the black kyanite down here also plays another surge protector role to ensure the excess energy of this entire dynamic engine is being rapidly dispersed into the earth absolutely quick as possible. Then, right here would be the focalizers right here. So the aspect of the entire figure 8 being a closed loop circuit, these have been affixed to the primary blade band for the distinct purpose of grounding into the primary wire to be the focus of the energy. Starting off with the titanium aura quartz to be a very strengthening effect behind the Lemurian quartz. Titanium aura quartz is a product of modern alchemy, which is pressure coating of clear quartz with titanium, which is a very strengthening metal. So when you bond that to quartz, it makes for a very strong, strengthening energy that works as a full rainbow light bacteria in its own right, as well as a fortification agent to encourage a more strengthened aura, which is very advantageous for the backside focus of the clear Lemurians to have a very strengthened auric field for the projection purposes of, once again, a clear quartz always works as a great neutral ambient acceleration of frequencies run through it, if you would. So the aspect of the focalizers take the excess energy and by design actually gives a directional current focus. So I'll go ahead and align with my good buddy right there to make a closed loop circuit to broadcast the alignment more succinctly, more successfully, and give the excess energy of the figure 8 a focus, like implied. By golly, I think that would be the entirety of the crystalline composition fully notarized. So by now, as nearly an hour has gone by, it's pretty self-evident that this is a very dynamic full light body activator by design, with primarily a very strong green ray heart chakra abundance ratio device. And like I mentioned, this would be the 40th rendition of 2025 that has become quite the sensation, has been organically developed into the 40th rendition seen right here, which is pretty spectacular. And this is another dramatic foray into the morphic field network of the abundance ratio that's in rather prolific wide distribution at this point, based on it being a very successful platform at this point. Well, that would be it. Well, 1,000 blessings, and may the force be with us all.